Welcome to Nana Talk. I'm your host, Leroy Jones, where voices unite and communities rise. This is a space where we empower neighborhoods, one talk at a time, from real conversations with real people and real leaders to empowering stories from the block. We shine a light on the people and projects driving for change. I'm here joined by my guest, Brother Lyle Muhammad from the Circle of Brotherhood. Welcome, Brother Lyle.
By his grace, it's such an honor to be with you, brother. And when I say your name, I can't just say great Leroy Jones. I got to say great Leroy Jones.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. I want to thank you for dropping in on the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I guess I'm not going to say I'm getting old, but the more years you get, the more interesting our road becomes to how we came to where we are. And something that's significant when I get asked that question, I just think it's important for people to know. Well, first of all, I was born in a little teeny city called Springfield, Massachusetts.
Okay.
My mother had me when she was 16. I had a brother by the time she was 17. I had a sister by the time she was 18. I had some bumps in the road as we were growing to be a family together, in and out of foster care system and so forth. But the most important thing is that persevering and understanding and learning there was a purpose for me to be living. But life really kind of took a turn for me when, whatever they want to say. I couldn't go to any more schools in Springfield as a youth. And so we ended up relocating to Baltimore.
So me knowing you do a lot of community work, I want you to know this, is that it was no one else I thought about doing my first show than you, brother, because of your drive and your commitment to the people in the community. So when I was asked that I wanted to do a show, the first person I could think of was you, brother. I just want you to know that.
That makes me so honored. You, matter of fact, as I even fast forward, you remind me when I first came to Miami in 2007, it was just sporadically people would say, you need to meet Leroy Jones. You all need to connect. You need to meet Leroy Jones, and so I'm just grateful to not only have met you, of course, in the flesh and have worked with you side by side doing so many different things, but I met you through other people who you help. So your intro to your show is more than an intro. It's the real deal.
So tell me, what brought you to Miami?
God led and God fed. I had no intentions on leaving the area I was in, nor was I stuck there, but our good brother who we both know, Brother Al, got an assignment here. And Brother Al and myself, we traveled together doing work across this country. And as he got called to do his work and mission here, he very shortly called me thereafter, said, brother, it's not just my mission, it's yours too. So matter of fact, he came in December, January, and I came in September of that year and been here ever since.
Okay, so when you landed, your first opportunity, I believe, came from Overtown to the Overtown Youth Center?
Right. What a beautiful experience. Once the die was cast that I was going to be relocating, there's two significant things I did. Greatness and real, they say, recognize real.
Yes, sir.
And we've been doing some pretty good work around this country, right? And so I just started looking at people who were doing great work and just doing blind emails. And I said, if your work is great, we're going to eventually connect one day. And I remember coming across the website of the Overtown Youth Center and being a youth development specialist. I felt an affinity for that. And so that was the first place that I interviewed and the first place I landed my feet in Miami. And I'm considered a towner for life by the brothers and sisters who live there because of the work that we do.
Okay. So your work has taken you to other countries and states, right? You want to talk a little bit about where you worked at before?
Yeah, and I'll say this, particularly if this is something that gets out to young people, that travel is one of the greatest things to learn about yourself in this world that we live in. And so I have been blessed to travel across this country, teaching and training our young people. Most of the young people who people say that nothing can be done with, those are the ones that we specialize with. And I've had the opportunity a few times traveling and doing youth development work in Great Britain, and also some religious work in Korea from time to time.
So believe it or not, I think before I really had a real conversation with you, I saw a video, an old VHS y'all did with some work with some youth in Great Britain, you and Brother Lyle, you and Brother Al. So the first time I saw you really in action doing work was on an old VHS that y'all was doing work in.
That was a very powerful and special project. I think it was back in 2004, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, but the BBC.
Right, the BBC.
They were doing a documentary, and they wanted to see if they can find some American trainers who could help some young men get back on a course of work. And so they came across our work and what we were doing, and it became a 3-part series that was viewed by more than 10 million folk over there in Great Britain. Very successful at youth transformation.
I was impressed when I saw that. So also, y'all did a project in Overtown called the Peacemakers. I think the city of Miami or somebody gave y'all opportunity to do something in Overtown.
Right, and that's historic, Leroy, as you mentioned that, because the Peacemakers pilot project that took place in 2009 in Overtown, which was funded by the CRA initially, really under the leadership of Commissioner Michelle Spence-Jones.
Right. Okay.
At that time, it allowed us for the first time in Miami to do a pilot of what community-based public safety really looks like. And it was tremendously successful. A 90-day pilot that has success rates where that particular area that we were working in Overtown would generally receive 110 police calls a week, and the volume decreased down to 10 to 12 because of the work that was being done in the area, the relationships that were being built. And so as we have peacemaker programs all over Miami and now across the country, it was that one in Overtown that was the first one here in South Florida.
So all that was pre-Circle of Brotherhood. Now tell us about the Circle of Brotherhood, how that started, and what they're doing right now.
Wow. And that's a beautiful thing, because when people ask about the history of the Circle of Brotherhood, you got to start pre.
Right.
Because in a nutshell, there were so many of us doing great things, just in different nuances or different silos, if you will. But all of that was an eventual coming together. And so if you really want to do, I guess, with the initial start, I remember a lot of folk here are familiar with the show First 48.
Right.
The documentary where you solve a murder within 48 hours. Some folk don't know that actually started right here in Miami.
Right?
Right. And so at the time, Detective Ford, who I believe recently has retired as an assistant chief in North Miami.
Miami Beach.
North Miami Beach.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So he had been doing homicide investigations for 27 years. And I just need us to wrap our minds around what that looks like for a human being. And there was a rash of murders, and he said, I got to do something different. So he connected with Michelle Spence-Jones, and I don't know what to do, but I know who to call. So they called some of us together. But what I remember most specifically about that initial meeting is after we heard what Detective Ford had to say, we made a promise to ourselves that we would not allow the things that separate us to get in the way of what we could do together. Now, while that was the impetus that led to the growth and establishment of the Circle of Brotherhood, brothers and individuals like yourself coming along to play a role really catapulted it to a whole nother level.
So when you have this meeting with Michelle Spence-Jones, a few of the community leaders was called to the meeting. One of them was the now president of the Circle of Brotherhood, Pastor Jeffrey Mack. Then you had Pastor Michael Davis and Pastor Anthony Tate at the time, and you, yourself, and Brother Al Muhammad at the time. And so where it started at. So you get together. I know y'all met at the church, at Pastor Mack's church. But then what happened after?
Right. And then for the record, it's important to mention that Brother T. Willard Fair, he was at that meeting as well.
Okay.
And his assistant, Brother Hassan, as well.
Right.
But the bottom line is that we asked Detective Ford, where is the greatest problem? Now, I want you to think about that. When people really talk about where the extreme, violent pockets in our neighborhoods are, most
Right.
people want to run away.
Right.
We said wherever that is, we want to start right there. And at that time, you know, that was in a neighborhood known as Liberty Square, or if you're on a corner, it's known as the Beans.
Right.
But that was where we started, and we didn't start like we were just gonna come in and do some super work, other than build relationships with ourselves and each other, and also with the community. And then we began to rely on each other's expertise, and the results speak for themselves.
Okay, so I know I became a part of the group at that time, and we started walking in Liberty Square every Saturday from 6 to maybe 7:30. Like, we didn't miss a Saturday for like a year and a half, right? And then the organization started growing. We started getting other men involved in the organization. So after that, then came us organizing, right? And having meetings. And then the organization grew. And the next step was?
Well, you know, to be quite honest, it's really a beautiful thing to see something so organic. You know, what I mean by that is we didn't come together to become some established entity, but out of our common interest and our love for our people in the community, you're talking about an organization that grew both in respect to its work and its reputation, if you want to say it, not just from the streets to the suites, but from the outhouse to the White House, where literally the work and the programs that we run in the Circle of Brotherhood, including the facility that we run under the care and guidance of great brothers like yourself, has become a national model for what not just community violence intervention and prevention looks like, but what community service looks like.
So how about you share with the audience the type of programs that the Circle of Brother has right now at this time?
Right. So right now at this time, we've been blessed to run programs that deal with everything from boots on the ground violence intervention and prevention work. We have a team of youth success coaches that work with the so-called most incorrigible youth in our community, and also work hand in hand with our youth in foster care system and those most likely to lean toward gun violence. We also work with a strong reentry program, so men and women who are coming home from incarceration have an opportunity to not just come back in society, but to stay there and grow and thrive. I think our wellness circles that we have for both men and women are first class. So we got a holistic approach. You know, our motto is Black men solving our own community problems. And when you look at the different tenets and the programs, we've taken a holistic approach to community development, primarily with wellness and violence intervention and prevention.
So not long ago, you was given an opportunity to go to Chicago, take some training around AVI, Gun Violence Initiative, and you was recognized by the White House. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Just a great honor. You know, one of the mottos we have in the Circle of Brotherhood is let he who is best at that lead and the rest of us will follow. So we were talking about a construction project right now. I'd be in the audience listening right now, and one of our other brothers would be here talking about it. But the work that we've been able to grow and do, we were selected to be one of the first graduates of the University of Chicago's Crime Lab's Community-Based Violence Intervention Leadership Academy. In that academy, we were maybe 31 of the first individuals from 21 different cities, and it was such an auspicious occasion that they held our graduation at the White House. But what led up to that is the great work that we've been doing and success that we've been having with violence intervention work right here in Miami-Dade.
So they done had 3 graduations so far.
That's correct.
Their last graduation took place here in Miami-Dade County at the Circle of Brotherhood headquarters at the Dr. Dorothy Bendroff Mendigal Social and Economic Institute. Right. So let's share with them about how that graduation went.
A tremendous. You want to talk about, first of all, the first graduation was at the White House.
Right.
The second one was in Los Angeles, you know, a large part because it was supported by funders who were based in Los Angeles. And we were blessed to host the third one right here in Miami because of the great work and the ecosystem that we've built out around violence intervention and prevention work. So you had 150 violence intervention and prevention specialists from all across the country come and spend a whole week with us, along with that graduating class of 31 individuals. And just a tremendous thing. They couldn't do anything but bear witness to the great work that we're doing here. It was very humbling.
So how many days did they stay? And tell me some of the events and things that they went to while they was here.
Well, they were here for a whole week. So technically, we actually became a part of their close-out curriculum with their last immersion experience that they spent with us. And they spent time as well looking at the great work at the Overtown Youth Center. They also had the time to spend some time with us on site at one of our newest ventures at Buena Vista, formerly known as Lincoln Fields, where we are now responsible for the public safety there 24/7.
So let's talk about Lincoln Fields and how that came about and what impact that is making in that community.
You know, Brother Leroy, as I hear you ask that question, first of all, I'm pained over the years and years and years that we've been wanting to do some great work in Lincoln Fields. And there just been roadblocks, whether the roadblocks were being not able to locate the owners, not having resources to actually do the type of work. Nevertheless, new ownership comes. And the new ownership was bold enough and innovative enough to say, we can't just be here and not help improve the quality of life.
Right.
And so obviously crime and violence is an issue. And so they reached out to 5 of the top armed security companies, and they would not touch that site. Through a great partnership they established with the Overtown Youth Center, they found out about our great work that we do with the peacemakers and the great work we do with our violence intervention work, and thought it would be a great fit. And it's good to say that not only is it a great fit, we've been up and running there since December of last year.
Wow, that's great. How many men workers you have over there assisting the residents?
Right. Overall, about 15 to 20. It's also an area where we concentrate all of our services to help that whole quality of life. But we have 3 shifts where there's 3 individuals. So we're literally there 24/7.
Yeah. So some of the partners that you work with, I know the Circle of Brotherhood have a real good relationship with working with foster care youth. Let's talk about the foster care youth and our relationship with them.
I'm glad you mentioned that. And shout out to our beautiful family at the Citrus Foster Care Family Network. What a lot of people don't understand when it comes to statistics that label young people in the most negative of ways, they don't know, a lot of folk don't know, that if those statistics read that for youth across the norm, it's 10 to 60 times higher,
right?
For our foster care youth,
right?
Whether it's incarceration or being involved with violence or what have you. So we have a great working relationship. Now let's just have a real conversation for a minute. We're an organization of primarily Black men. And a lot of times, you know, we're some of those men who have been absent in the lives of our children. If not us directly, we don't run away from that being a community issue. That's why we do such great work with the Circle of Brotherhood to mentor our young people, particularly in those kind of gaps. So definitely shout out to our foster care population.
So the Circle of Brotherhood take its role and its responsibility for the things it's done and the creative work we're doing now to better men our community, right? Absolutely. Being good men, right? So recently, the Circle of Brotherhood had a contract. It was terminated. So let's talk about that contract. How many people is affected by it, and what we can do, get the community involved in to help out with that.
Great question. You know, and I'll just lead into it by saying we were blessed to establish about a $6 million investment total into violence intervention work in Miami-Dade. ARPA funds we received about $1 million through Mayor Suarez in the city of Miami, another $2 million from Congresswoman Frederica Wilson. We were also one of the first 8 organizations in the country to receive a Department of Justice grant for $2 million to establish our community-based violence intervention work. That was a $2 million 3-year grant.
Right.
Unfortunately, as of April 22nd, that grant was terminated. the administration has been doing a lot of different things, and we were one of 365 organizations that were affected by that, and I guess the thing about it is that it's a couple weeks before summer,
Right.
and we're talking about people who work and have helped to reduce violence in some of the most volatile neighborhoods and areas. So there's about 30 employees directly affected, but the truth be told, any nonprofit that has a hit with a grant like that, it affects our entire operation.
Right. So it was 365 organizations.
365 organizations
whole
across
country.
the country.
Right. That was affected by that.
Immediately.
That funds that got
Cut
terminated.
immediately. And they were all doing violence intervention and prevention work.
That was dealing with gun violence.
Right. Just to kind of give people a picture of what that looks like. Can you imagine if on a count of 3, the funding for the police department was no more?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there were 23 total cities.
Mm-hmm.
The funding was just gone.
Mm-hmm.
We're not saying that we're the police, but we are saying we're a viable partner as we work with police departments, but we're a viable partner in the public safety network. And without boots on the ground, without the type of individuals with credible messenger and lived experience that we have on our staff and team, all that could be lost.
So I remember the times when it was a lot of shootings taking place in Dade County. I noticed how it has drastically reduced. And so let's talk about the role that the Circle of Brotherhood plays as relates to our relationship with the police departments and the cadets. Let's talk about that.
First of all, when you talk about just the crime reduction, I think it's important to know now that crime reduction, particularly homicide reduction in the area you just specifically mentioned, is drawing national attention because of how drastic the homicide rate has dropped. And a lot of that is because of the Boots on Ground program we've been able to establish since 2018 and work that we've been doing. But you mentioned the police cadet training.
Right.
We also specialize in police community relations.
Right.
And let's act like police and community relations are A-OK across the country.
Right.
But our training has been so effective where we have had brothers from the streets who actually have gone through an experience training at the police academy. But you also have police cadets, both in Miami-Dade and also the city of Miami, that spend a day with us through our training, which according to them is not only transformational in their own life, but it's a whole different nuance on what police community relationships should look like and could look like.
Right. So I think it would be safe to say the relationship that the Circle of Brotherhood has with the city of Miami, Chief Morales, and now the relationship we're having with the new sheriff, Sheriff Rosie, that's going to bring about a better, even more cohesive working relationship, better than before. So you want to talk anything about, because I know not long ago, the Circle of Brotherhood met with chiefs all over the country with Chief Morales to talk about our programs.
Shout out, first we'll talk about the chief and then our new sheriff. Shout out really to Chief Morales, not just for his longtime service with the City of Miami Police Department, but his leadership. He was, from what I was told, the first police chief in the country when we started seeing the crime rates go down a couple of years ago, also give credit and credence to organizations such as ourselves.
Exactly.
And I think he also mentioned some of the work of Tangela Sears.
Right.
But with that, though, we've had a working relationship. And it's been so successful that the chief has allowed us to have audiences here that have been national training institutes. And we've even traveled together to San Diego.
Right.
We've even been having some crisscross exchange in Washington, D.C. because people are saying to him, hey, who's that? And they're saying to me, hey, who's that? But it's a genuine relationship. When Sheriff Rosie came to office and came to meet with us, one of the most important things, and I saw her again a few weeks ago in Annapolis at their Sheriff's Day event there, but she said something very critical and important. She said, while the department is going through transformation in terms of the agency itself, one of the things that is not going to change is our strong and valued partnerships. And she valued the partnership with the Circle of Brotherhood as one of those strong and valued partnerships.
So I know under the Circle of Brotherhood, we actually have 2 programs that deal with gun violence. We have the outreach team, and we have the peacemakers.
Right.
You want to say anything about any one of those?
Yeah, I think it's important to note, first of all, the outreach team, and we have to give credence to former Commissioner Audrey Edmondson, who really championed allowing that program to initially be really established as a county program in 2018. Kudos to you, good brother, because it's very rare that a program like that can be championed between the exchange of two mayor administrations. So supported by both Mayor Jimenez and also Mayor Cava.
Right.
Shout out to you on that.
Right.
But this is a national model program where our outreach workers respond to areas where there are shootings and particular things take place, and also in partnership with some other community groups. And then the other thing that we do with our wellness and violence intervention program, we're able to establish beachheads across the county. We're actually very close to having work from Miami Gardens, really Pompano, coming all the way down to South Dade. But all of that work, it needs to be expanded.
Okay. So the Circle of Brotherhood has a new chapter in Pompano Beach. So let's talk a little bit about that. But I also want to give you the opportunity to talk about how anybody can help because of the crisis that the Circle of Brotherhood was just hit with the termination of the funding.
You know, the Circle of Brotherhood, we get phone calls and visits from all across the country about people who want to establish chapters. And after all these years, the only chapter that we've established is the one recently in Pompano, the first outside chapter of the Circle of Brotherhood. But it was the right organic makeup, the right membership, the right chemistry, and they went about it the right ways. So shout out to our brothers in Pompano, and they're a budding and growing chapter. And we do look forward to having chapters established in all communities where we live and exist. But what a testimony to how this work can grow.
Right.
Now, in terms of being able to help the Circle of Brotherhood, we got a dynamic website. If you go to www.circleofbrotherhoodmiami.org, first of all, it'll address the immediate, and we do have an immediate crisis need. We're attempting not to let go of violence intervention specialists, particularly before summer. So we're fundraising right now. We're establishing programs and new partnerships. There's a lot of good work going on. And we're just saying, everybody kind of do your part. So we're calling on anybody, whether you're just a brother or sister that lives in the neighborhood, or whether you do pretty well here in Miami. You know, and you know that the work that we've done, research is showing, Leroy, has literally driven down violence across the county.
Yeah. So I'd like to ask, is there anything I could have asked you that I didn't that you want to share?
Only one thing, and that is, what are my thoughts about this great host?
Thank you, brother.
Leroy Jones, and the great opportunity given to you to have such a platform. You're a very, very rare community individual, dear brother. And I tell people all the time, I guess this is my time to talk to the audience, because, you know, when I talk about this brother, I use two words to introduce him. I use the words love and power. It's a whole lot of people that love you, but they don't have any power. And there's a whole lot of people that have power and they have no love for you. You've been blessed to have both, brother. And the work that you've done as a personal mentor in helping me and guiding me in growing development, that's another thing. We all need mentors, no matter what stage we are in our life. And you are truly a man. I mean, look at the diverse backing you get from people, regardless of their political persuasion, regardless of whether they live up north or down south. People bear witness to your heart and your great work. And so I'm thankful to have a man like you in the community. I'm even more thankful to have had this walk and this journey as we've grown this beautiful gift we've been given called the Circle of Brotherhood into a beacon of light.
So thank you, brother, for those kind words. And you know, I can say the same to you, man. I love your spirit. I love your drive, your commitment, what you stand for, your purpose. And I love how you can take the least of us and make them feel empowered, man. You make them feel like a new human being, man. I've never seen nobody can transform people like you, man. I love you for that, brother. And I want to say that I want to thank Community News Network. Thank the owners of Community News and all the people who work here. Thank you thank you for the opportunity. And we're looking forward to more shows where we can bring on people that can share things in all the neighborhood and empower us all. So I want to thank the owners of Community News, man, for giving me this opportunity, you know?
Well deserved and well earned, good brother.
So
Thank you.
brother. I'm looking forward to the next show. Until then, just stay focused, stay committed. Let's love one another and know that we all need each other. We're better people when we're working together than apart.